the effort continues. The struggle against hunger and poverty by showing an example, showing how it can be done. We farmed here last year. At that time, we were able to exert ourselves to a certain degree and depended mostly on the traditional method of rice production. From the rich archive of experience we acquired, we've been able to apply all of that, and the difference is absolutely impressive. I mean, the yield this year, of course, the vastness of the land, we expanded. And to be here is to witness something of great joy and satisfaction. And I come back to my point. Why is everyone not doing this? Everyone should be doing this. Every Nigerian who can afford to do this. It doesn't matter where you go. If you have a hectare of land, half a hectare of land, wherever, go and do this. In Ebonyi State, we've been able now to drive rice down. The price of rice, 25 kg of rice is now between 4,000, 4,500, 5,000 at most, which means that a bag of rice is at most 10,000 now. That was the achievement that was promised sometime last year by the government of Ebonyi State. And by the time all the larger efforts, such as ourselves, bring our products into the market, we're going to depress that price even a bit more. This field has surpassed itself. And I keep wondering, we have the EFCC, the NIA, the ICPC, the CBB, or rather no, the CCB, that's the Code of Conduct Bureau. We have the Nigerian police, we have the custom, we have immigration, we have a vast array of national institutions, creations of law that are dedicated to the fight against crime in this society. I could even add the military, even though their primary assignment is the defense of the territorial integrity of the country, but more often than not in our current society, they are deployed to fighting crime. We have all these great, permanent, first-line charge institutions fighting against crime. Where are the institutions fighting against hunger? I want to know that. Institutions created simply to fight hunger. Why do we not have, for instance, a federal agency responsible for fighting against food shortages? Let's call it FIA, Food Intelligence Agency. Such an agency would, for instance, be responsible for discovering that there are people in a place called Ebonyi State that are making this effort. Because what is happening here is not in the national statistics of rice production. It is not. And yet this is not our biggest effort. Our biggest effort is somewhere in Ikwo local government. This is Nishelu local government. This is a government-owned land, as a matter of fact, which had lain fallow for decades previously. And we thought it was such a waste of resource, and then we embarked on this. Our biggest effort lies somewhere else, but nobody, not the Ministry of Agriculture, at the federal level, not any agency responsible for food production in the country knows about the existence of individuals and communities that are waging extraordinary effort to make sure that we banish hunger in our society. A food intelligence agency would, for instance, make a case. Over there is a strategic grain reserve. We have many of such across the country. I've been making the case that such a facility should be handed over to the governments of states that are serious about food production. The latest information coming to us is that that wonderful facility has been concessioned into private hands. It shouldn't be. Such an agency, for instance, would be the first to alert the government of Nigeria, for instance, that hunger was about to threaten the patriots of the northeast of Nigeria. It will require such an agency to simply know that once you begin to gather large populations into a restricted area, refugees, the so-called internally displaced people, that the next priority is how are you going to find the food to feed these people? Before shelter, before sanitation, etc. It is the food. And if we have strategic grain reserves, and I'm certain there are so many located in the northeast of Nigeria, why do we have the crisis we have there, to the point that Nigeria now faces the international humiliation of having food brought in from outside the world, outside the country, to help feed those? Why is it that it is the Guardian of London, it is the Washington Post, it is the Times of London, and the economists that are now pointing out to us, writing editorials about the food shortages and food crisis in the northeast of Nigeria? How many Nigerian newspapers have done editorials on that? I really would like an answer to that. How many news agencies have done their editorials, be it radios, or televisions, and so on? I want to know the sort of effort we have paid to that state of emergency, affecting millions of citizens. Because until we stop talking with the surface, scratching the surface of the challenges we face in this country, we cannot provide the solutions to them. The Food Intelligence Agency, and this is an argument I'm making very seriously, is sorely needed in this country, not just to have reliable statistics of the food production capacity, those that are actually doing what we're doing now, but other efforts that could be made in other areas, in animal husbandry, in the production of cassava, production of tomatoes and potatoes. There was a time not too long ago in this country when the shortage of tomatoes became such embarrassment, and it took us by surprise. Every single thing about food shortage in this country tends to take us by surprise, and the citizens pay a terrible price because of that laxity. Food Intelligence Agency, manned by people who understand what it means to guard against food scarcity, to make preparations for emergencies, but above all to put our resources to the best use. Now, I would also want the federal government to give us an answer as to why only NPK fertilizer was subsidized in this farming season. How about the other components? Because the NPK variety is only one tiny component of every single thing you need to embark in agriculture. Why not subsidize gas? Call it diesel. Why not subsidize diesel for us? Subsidize urea, the other type of fertilizer, which apparently the national guideline is for every hectare you have, you should apply 6 bags of fertilizer, 4 NPK, 2 urea. Why subsidize just the NPK and not the urea? Because this year, across the entire country, in most parts of the country, a bag of urea sold for between 8,000 to 9,500 naira. A bag of 50 kg. How do you make profit in those circumstances? Diesel was selling at about 200, 205 naira, 210 naira at the time we were embarking on field preparation. And that compelled people like myself to invest all my machinery in preparing more than 400 hectares of land for free for people from my community, because they could not afford to pay commercial operators to do that for them. And by the way, the Food Intelligence Agency should have such efforts in their statistics, because there should be a way of making sure that every country, every part of the country understands what effort other parts are making, so that we learn from the best practices. Politicians should stop going on their knees begging for bags of rice to send to their constituents. Politicians who have the resources should buy tractors for those people you're sending your bags of rice, with knees on ground and the bowl in your hands, and stop dramatizing things that should be actually systematized. Buy the tractors, buy the fertilizers, subsidize the pesticides, the insecticides, and so on. Talking about pesticides, over there are tapes, anti-bird tapes, which were applied across the farm to ensure that not one single grain of this rice has been touched. You can hear the sounds of birds all over the place. In fact, that tree is colonized by over 10,000 weaver birds, but none of them touches the rice because of those tapes. My conclusion about all of this is, yes, it's all very well to run around talking about zero hunger. But who is going to bring the hunger to zero? What are we doing to bring the hunger to zero? And we should stop, really, seriously, stop this notion that, oh, there must be someone out there doing it. There must be a group of people out there doing it. No, it's you, it's me. The patriots of this republic are the ones that must get out there in the field, be under the sun, be under the rain. Sacrifice your comfort zone. This is a Saturday evening. I have friends waiting to have an evening of relaxation, a weekend relaxation with me, but this is important because we are the vanguards against the wolves of hunger, the wolves of poverty at the gates.